What is going on, everyone? Welcome in to another episode of the Mast Podcast. I'm your host, Dalton Pence. I serve as the territory sales manager covering Kentucky, the majority of Indiana, and Southern Ohio. Joining me today, I have various members of the Wave Network. We have Melanie Brzozowski, Alex Jacobs, and Alan Jerabeck. How we doing, crew? Doing good? Ready to talk a little bit about the pool industry?
Absolutely. Doing well. We've got some nice weather finally up here in upstate New York. So we're all definitely raring to get going.
Hey, I love to hear that. It's about 80 degrees in Kentucky today. So why I'm inside recording a podcast? Well, it's to help the rest of the industry. As I mentioned, a rising tide raises all ships, guys. That's the goal for this show, and especially for the young people looking to get into an aging industry. I brought these individuals on because they're incredible at what they do. We're going to talk about how you can separate yourself in this industry, the passing of the baton, how do we uphold and take the industry to the next level. We'll talk about embracing technology, overcoming adversity, and much, much more. But to begin, let's get into some introductions. We'll start with you, Alan. Give me a little bit of background about yourself, what your current role is, and all that good stuff.
Sure. So my name is Alan Jerabeck. I am a territory sales rep with Atlantic Sales Connection. I can usually be found somewhere around upstate New York or probably around New England, as I cover a pretty wide swath of territory. I currently sit as the chairperson of the WAVE Young Professional Steering Committee on behalf of the PHTA.
Awesome. Alex, see you got that heritage shirt on. Give me a little bit of background info about you.
Sure. So I'm the Northeast sales manager for Heritage Pool Supply. I've been with them since July 23, so about 18 months or so. Almost coming on my 2-year anniversary here. Prior to that was with a buying group, and then prior to that, I was completely in a different industry. As a baseball scout. As a baseball scout, coach, front office for Astros, Diamondbacks, did some work for the Phillies, and somehow ended up in this great industry, the swimming pool industry. Like Alan, I'm the vice chair of the WAVE committee, as well as the director for Penn, Jersey, and NESPA, and just enjoy to be involved in as many, group activities as possible in this industry. It's a lot of fun.
Hey, I'm an Astros fan myself, so love to hear that for sure. We also have on, last but not least, Melanie Brzozowski, service manager for All Seasons Pools and Spas. Melanie, tell us a little bit about yourself and your current role in the pool industry.
I started in this industry almost 11 years ago now. I am on the WAVE steering committee as well with Alan and Alex. I've been doing that since 2018, so a very long time, since before we were in PHTA. I also co-started the Midwest WAVE chapter committee, and right now I sit as the chair for that committee. And last year, I won PHTA's Young Professional of the Year award. So definitely love being a part of this industry. Wouldn't have been here for so long if I didn't. Very excited about the future of this industry as well. So.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on that award. I'm excited for this episode because, it seems like we're all younger people on this recording. And this is an industry that has gotten a rep as being like an older industry, an aging industry, people that have started businesses in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, just continuing along. And it seems like the passing of the baton to the younger generation isn't as prevalent as it was. But I'm curious, people listening to the show likely have heard of what the Pool and Hot Tub Alliance is, but for those that don't know, the WAVE Young Professionals Network, I'm not really pressed on who answers this. How would you all describe what the WAVE Network is and what the WAVE Network does?
Well, we're a coalition of essentially the under 40 set. within the industry. We meet whenever we can, in some cases regionally, like with Melanie's chapters, whether it be at trade shows, other industry events to network, share best practices, and kind of join forces more or less to kind of be the face of the future of the industry. Kind of one of our key programs, in my opinion, is our scholarship program. So that's something that we've all worked very hard on over the last several years to grow. For essentially free or discounted PHTA and other industry certifications for, maybe folks starting out on their own or smaller companies without much of an education budget, to continue to further the young people in the industry.
So let's say, I was about to say if I'm a younger person, I'm 26 years old, about to be 27. So I still classify as young, under 40, if you will.
Maybe.
I'll send you a link to the next meeting.
No kidding. If someone is under 40 listening out there and they're potentially interested in joining the Wave Network, is that something that, I could do? How does that process work? What does that look like?
Pretty simple. Reach out to any one of us. I'm sure we'll definitely put some contact information in the show notes. Reach out to your local PHTA chapters if you have one. There are lots of ways to get involved. You'll definitely see us at trade shows and things like that when we get into that next round of trade shows next season. But in the interim, we have monthly meetings that, we plan the year's upcoming events, the scholarship program, networking events, and other things that we're working towards. So it's a pretty minimal time commitment and definitely something that can be done virtually in most cases.
Melanie, I'll go to you with this. I think it was funny. I was reading your background that you sent me, and you said that, you left the industry, but the industry just brings you back in. It feels like that's true for so many different people. Let's talk about how we, as a young collective, can separate ourselves in an aging industry. In your experience, what's been something that's kind of helped you out as, a person under 40 that's been able to sort of get to that level of service manager?
Sure. So anytime I have a chance to do any sort of training, I take it. So I've always been a person who loves to learn. So whether it be manufacturer training, or if it's going to the shows and doing the classes there, which they do a lot of business classes, or even the technical training there. I never pass up opportunities for continuing education. I have a CMS, a CST, and a CPI certification through PHTA. So I think the more you know, the more you grow. So if you have a chance to get involved, if you have a chance to, take a class, or like Alan said, apply for our scholarship, take it.
I think that's a good point. The more you know, the more you grow. That is a really good way to look at that. Alex, talk about the certifications that there are out there. I feel like for, our age group and sort of that bracketed in, it's at the point now where any type of opportunity that you have to gain knowledge on a wide variety of stuff, I feel like this is the time to do it, to set that foundation, not only for yourself, but honestly for yourself 10 years down the road, where you may now be tasked with bringing the next generation in.
Absolutely. That's what the Wave Group's all about, and it almost like upgrading the industry in a sense. And just to go a step back for a second and to add on to what Alan and Melanie said, this industry, admittingly, it has a stigma to it, right? No,
Yep.
There's not many people that grow up saying, I want to work in the pool industry, unless it's in the family. And what we're trying to do is we're trying to get that stigma out. I'm one of them. When I learned about this industry, leaving, a career, I wasn't 100%, on board with it. I didn't know what it was about. I had no idea it existed, but learning about it was incredibly invigorating, and the people in it and the amount of passion that these people have for the swimming pool industry is incredibly inspiring. That there's a legitimate career path in many walks of life in this industry. Whether it's a service tech, there's a career path, service manager, Melanie, career path, sales, career path, operations, career path, anything you can do in in the private sector and big time business, Fortune 500 company, you can do in the swimming pool industry. And it's really telling or just real enlightening the talent out there that may not be in this industry yet, but is thinking about a career change, that this industry, there's a spot for you. You may not know it yet, but there's a spot for you and you can grow. And really, make a lot of money while having fun too.
I think that doesn't just apply to the pool industry. Like, you're seeing it with trades across the board. There's this notion that, we have to grow up, go to school, go to college, get a degree, and get a job that's going to pay us a boatload of money right out of college. That's the American dream, it feels like, right? Or the perceived American dream. But what gets kind of lost in the sauce, so to speak, is that there's so much opportunity, not only with the trade side of things, but in an industry like ours, which isn't one that I feel like you can just come in and dominate. There's a level of sort of growing up that you have to do, because it's not an easy industry, so to speak. So how do we move forward? And this is up to anyone in this panel. How do we move forward to, reduce and hopefully eliminate that stigma down the road?
If I could start, it was Alan. You're about to say
it's up to you all.
Continue doing what we're doing. It's like you mentioned, it's an experiential industry where knowledge is king. Knowledge about putting pad together, knowledge about the pieces of equipment. Alan's an expert on 13 lines, probably well more than that in his role right now, right? Melanie's an expert at too many to count. Yeah, Melanie's an expert on managing a service department, a massive service department. It's been in retail for God knows how long, right? Since you were alive, since you were born. You too, Dalton. It's the stigma is just having a positive attitude about this industry and just continuing pushing it forward. I think we all can agree the swimming pool industry is well behind, similar trades or similar industries out there. And we're trying to catch it up, and it's a lot of fun doing it.
Yeah,
I would add on to that in the sense that, go ahead, Melanie.
Go.
Right. When I joined we got a hell of a delay going on. I'll just keep going. When I joined the industry, everybody asked if I was going to get a van and hit on divorcees, all day, because that's what everybody thought pool people did. And it's not all been that, although there's certainly been some opportunities, but I've worked on both coasts, multiple states, and I still get to see the same faces at shows and events and other things like that. It's really become quite a community that, you really develop a strong network of relationships that pay dividends both socially and professionally. I can't think of many other industries that have trade alliances to go essentially do your job for you should you become ill or sick or something like that. We call it sick route, for some of the service teams and things like that. It's really just a pretty tight-knit community that's I've always just been a big fan of.
I agree on that. Looking at the industry now and relating it to what it's going to be, let's say 5 years, because the older generation, you're going to continually see what I'm seeing in my area is family businesses that have been around, businesses that have been around since the 70s and 80s, closing, for good because there is no succession plan. And I look at this from an industry-wide perspective, and it's not just your brick and mortar stores, but I mean, service companies, builders, no succession plans available. How do we, as the next wave, so to speak, how do we uphold this industry and make sure that it stays afloat, but also take it to the next level? Melanie, we'll start out with you.
There's a company um, in our vicinity here that had a situation where the leadership team in their company, they wanted to take over. They wanted to know what the future was. What does it look like? The owner was not passing the business down, and they wanted to stay doing what they're doing. So they researched how to buy that company from the owner and did a management change. And I think if you are in a leadership role right now, and our company has been around for 70 years, right? And our owner, he's getting up there in age, and the thought is he's not going to be around forever. So having those thoughts in your head ahead of time of where does this go? And do we want to take over? And then the wave itself is a great place to, it's one of the things we do. We're a network, right? And the more people you can ask these things. How do we, continue on with this business? And I know there's other options out there, just like I've heard that bigger companies are coming and buying up little mom and pop shops. I just heard this, I think, at the Atlantic City show, and that is something. I mean, I don't know if it's scary. I don't, know a lot about it, but it is an option, right? So, I guess just getting those thoughts in your head ahead of time before you get in a situation where the company just closes because the boss wants to retire. So, that's my 2 cents.
And look, I know that not every store out there is going to have a succession plan. So it's very context based. Like it's never going to be universal. I do think you made a very interesting point there, is that networking continues to be king in this industry because, and we'll talk about technology here in a second, word of mouth still reigns supreme in the pool industry heavily. Don't you agree, Alex?
I mean, 100%. I mean, Melanie was saying, these bigger companies, right? Wall Street's all over this industry right now. I mean, if you were at the Atlantic City show, there was private equity, private company at every booth, doing their due diligence on anywhere from manufacturers to local mom and pop shops. So, I mean, as far as what's going to happen in the next 5 years, I mean, consolidation is definitely going to be one of them, and it's going to be happening all across the industry. And there's a playbook for it, right? The other similar types, let's say landscape or roofing or other building materials, that's been happening for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And now it's just entering the pool side of it.
Disney. I mean, it's not just our industry. The world is consolidating.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm. Alan, on your side of things, being a sales rep for the Atlantic Sales Connection side of things, as an independent rep firm. I mean, I work for an independent rep firm as well. So I definitely get, some of the stuff that we go through on this side. What's your sort of opinion on, how we uphold this industry as the next wave? But I'm really not interested in upholding it, guys. I'll be transparent. I want to transform it. I see this wave. I feel like the pool industry is finally catching its stride. And I think that we can take it through the stratosphere.
I mean, exactly. I think we already are. Technology is playing a huge role in that. As Alex was saying, the role of VC money and whatnot is rapidly changing it. For the first time in my professional career, all of my coworkers and my boss, they're all pretty much my age. So it's a really fun dynamic. I think, and that's how you do it. I think, essentially, as the batons continue to get handed off, whether forcefully or through, a peaceful transition of power, I guess, in that case. But the The way that we do it, I think, is by continuing to rely on our strengths, which is technology, pretty much across the board. Technology is only going to make us more relevant in the industry as these products continue to become more technologically advanced and therefore a bit more difficult for homeowners as chemical science continues to advance. And so on and so forth. The learning opportunities and the fast information sharing that technology is going to provide us is going to be, I think, the key to our success there.
Melanie can talk about the technology too, because I'm sure she would love to find the most efficient, the software that provides the most efficient routes, or the efficient, how to get, point of sale and just make it efficient as quick as possible. That's going around. Look at from a distribution standpoint, all of us are trying to, race to the top. Is the arms race of technology. I think biasly, I think we're doing a really good job at that. But from the ground level to all the dealers that were going in, you would never, I bet 20 years ago, if you said, hey, you're going to be connected from your hub to all of your service vans, they would say that's not possible. But look at it right now. It's connected. You take a picture, boom, it's in the database, and you have all the information available right there. So technology's only going to get greater.
Yeah.
And adaptation is necessary.
I don't know if we're on a collision course with the Jetsons, so to speak, but Melanie, I am interested. Alex said it. As a service manager, 8 years, even though that doesn't seem like a long period of time, the technological advances in that time seem to be pretty significant. How has things changed from what they were like in, let's say, 2018 to where they are now in 2025?
Yeah, well, I've started a lot to use artificial intelligence, like AI. I think I use it every day, and I'm like Alex said, it's only going to get better, and it's not going anywhere. And I am happy to embrace it. Of course, there's always this, there's been this stigma about it. We're scared of it. Where's it going to go? What's it going to do? And recently, it's saving me so much time. And I know it can do that for pools, and I'm excited to see what it can do. So some thoughts that I've had is, what is it going to do for testing water? We have these spin labs. Is it going to be able to predict, okay, this pool is, this many gallons. This is what you're going to need for the entire year, without a person having to go in and look at sales history or think about, how much rain are we going to have this year? And AI could predict that kind of thing. So that's one way technology, I feel like, is going to change the industry going forward. How it's been 8 years ago, everything, we don't have timer boxes anymore, right? In the field, all the pumps were single speed, turning off. A little bit before that, but turning on and off on a little timer box. Those things they're obsolete, and it's so fast in the service department. I feel like the manufacturers are always coming out with new things and retiring their old stuff. So right now we're having to change over everything to touchscreen, and like in telecenters, all kinds of things that are getting more and more advanced. Everybody's going to the phone, right? Even pool cleaners, you have to control it from an app on your phone. And it wasn't like that. Just literally 10 years ago, it wasn't like that. Everybody had to go in the backyard and, do switches. So I think especially with AI in 5 years, this industry is going to look totally different. And the young generation is going to be the one that you're going to need on your side to be able to get through that.
Right. I think that you're constantly adapting. The human race is always adapting with what we do. And I don't mean to get really philosophical here, but it's the truth. If you don't adapt, you get left behind. But there is a sense of continuity in this industry because, the whole saying, if it's not broke, don't fix it. There's a lot of business owners out there right now that have been doing the same thing since the 90s because it works. And don't take this the wrong way, because I'm not meaning for it to sound like a slight, because it's really so much a testament to the craft that they've been able to perfect. I do wonder, as it relates to technology continuing to get more and more prevalent, whether it's variable speed pumps, automation, automatic cleaners, I mean, you name it, there's so AI, drone work. I mean, you could make a whole list and a whole episode about technology alone. I feel like there's a responsibility, Alan, for the younger generation to sort of be that bridge and say, hey, look, I know that you didn't necessarily grow up with it like we did per se, but let me help you sort of, immerse yourself in this technology so we can sort of bridge that gap a little bit for the older generation.
I mean, let's not pretend like all old people are complete technophobes. I mean, they still have to live in 2025. They have smartphones. They, sure, they might type like this, which is painful, but
I type like that sometimes.
That's painful and you should stop. But
it is painful and I should stop.
But yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, there's a mix of whether or not they want to learn, which is a real thing. And if they want to learn, then they usually can, so, and if it's a question of refusal to want to adopt a new technology or something, in some cases, it is your role, I think, as the young person in the business, no matter what your role is, to sometimes break things in the sense that if, how much do you believe in this thing? Whether it be this technology, this process, this something, it's a calculated risk. Of course, you want to make sure you think it through, but sometimes just do it, just go do it. And if it fails, then you have to live with it. I told you so kind of a moment. But, if it succeeds, and more often than not, in my experiences, the time where I've chosen to take those risks, it's typically paid off, and you can instigate some pretty effective change by just doing it, really.
Right. No, I
probably
understand that.
My best kind of anecdote to that, when I returned to New York State after working in Northern California for almost 10 years, I was pretty shocked at the way that swimming pools were still being built in upstate New York. Without going into too many details, it was like it was still 1985 over here. And through just kind of a, hey guys, we're going to do it differently now kind of a moment, we were able to elevate the builder that I worked with in becoming known for the ones willing to do automation, the ones willing to bring in the UV system, things that homeowners are asking for that aren't a salt generator, that the other builders in the area were just kind of flat out saying no to because they hadn't heard of it or they were unfamiliar with it and whatnot. And we became known as the energy efficient guys, the technology guys, the things like that, that started to really bring in the newer segment of customer, which is the young people, the people that, we are now those income family having people with discretionary income to maybe spend in a hot tub or a pool. That's us now. So we want to make sure that, we're kind of trying to attract ourselves here like that.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. And you brought up a good point. One thing I didn't want was for someone to listen to that and say, man, this guy thinks old people don't know how to operate a phone. Of course, that's not the case. Now, my granddad still uses a flip phone, and introducing a smartphone to him would be like, reinventing the wheel, truthfully. But there are people that are out there embracing technology. I just say that from a point of we kind of grew up with it growing, and the next generation will have a level of technology that we didn't grow up with. It's just a non-ending cycle. But you mentioned, the totally different opposite coast, California and New York. That's as drastic as it gets. And I do find it fascinating how it seems like different waves and trends hit different areas at different times. Like we see that, I mean, you see that in, what you might do in Southwest Florida might not pertain to what you do in Minnesota. What you do in Texas might not be what you do in California. How do we, or let's put this with the Wave network. How do we sort of take those differences and sort of, converse them all together to where we're, still on the same page, despite maybe not having the same experiences as one another, geographically speaking?
Hydraulics is hydraulics, no matter where you are in the country. So there are certain things that don't really change based on region or geography. But certain things do, and it's where you find that intersect to be able to have enough knowledge and experience to understand when something is applicable and maybe when it might not work. You don't do too many vinyl liners in Northern California, for example, but you're doing a lot of them up here in New York. We freeze here. And so it's not always the best for those kinds of pools and whatnot. In comparison is just like a really quick, easy one. But that doesn't mean that 2-inch plumbing is going to move less water in New York than it will in California, for example. So
Sure.
It's a matter of finding those intersections. I think about, industry best practices and regional best practices.
No, I would definitely agree. This is the point where I kind of open it up to all three of y'all, and we'll get, just overall opinions on all three. We'll start with you, Alex. I want to take a look at a point where you faced a level of adversity as someone younger in the industry and how you sort of overcome that. And I will open the floor up to all three of you all individually to give me a little bit of an idea. It can be something drastic. It could be something minor. That was something just really, really small, but just something that the listener can tune into, be like, you know what, maybe that's something I'm going through and that I can get through. Alex, is there a certain moment or moments that you can kind of pinpoint?
Absolutely. But I just want to point out that our vice president of technology is Mark Warshaw. And I believe if he doesn't get mad, I think he's in his 60s. And he's the one who's driving our company as far as technology is concerned. Brilliant man. But as far as adversity, I would say the transition between jobs, right? I mean, I came into this industry and worked for a buying group. And then there's about 18 months into that, got a really awesome opportunity presented by Heritage and went into a new unknown world of distribution, right? Because buying group is a little different than that. So, I mean, just doing the due diligence, doing the research, doing the necessary primary interview research and the interviews and secondary research myself to make the right decision. And ultimately it's my decision to coming down. So hearing opinions of many others was 100% necessary to make this life-changing decision, right? So don't get me wrong, I enjoyed my time at the previous company, but when doing just a simple Venn diagram, right, pros and cons and equals, it was a resounding yes, you should make this decision to come over to Heritage and make a career out of it. So the advice I'd give to that is kind of similar to what Melanie said, is continuing education, continue to grow. And doing that, and you have to, unfortunately, at some point, you have to think about yourself and not really worry about what others say, because you are the one who's making the decision for you. And when it comes to it, it's your decision. So you're making a decision for you and making tough decisions, moving from one company to another, which happens a lot in this industry, as I'm learning, whether it's from manufacturer to manufacturer, distribution, trade, dealer to manufacturer, et cetera, et cetera.
But you never get out.
Yeah, exactly. You can't. No one leaves. If you leave, you're supposed to come back. And quite frankly, I'd sign on a dotted line right now saying, "Hey, in 30 years from now, you'll still be working with Heritage and having a fine career." Done, like sold, signed. But just don't be afraid to go against the grain. Loyalty means a lot. Loyalty is huge. But you know what? If it puts you, if any opportunity that comes by you puts you in a better situation and it's a no brainer, you got to do what's best for you.
Mm-hmm. No, I
Don't
definitely
look
get.
back. And
I
don't
get that.
look back. Once the decision's made, only look forward. Don't look back, because you know what? The past doesn't matter.
Yeah, no, I get that for sure. It's funny that you mentioned, the vice president being one that drives technology. My boss, the owner of the Mast Sales Group, Dan Bakotic, is honestly probably more technologically inclined than I am. And I'm like, man, it's impressive to see. Melanie, the floor is yours. Any adversity that you think that would be notable for you to bring up, and how you overcame that adversity?
Sure. Something that comes to mind is just different cultural, like different values than the older generation. So coming into the industry, I worked a lot of hours, like, Monday through Saturday, 10-hour days, and during on Saturdays, like crazy hours. And that was kind of the norm for this industry. From at least in the Midwest, when the pools are open, we work crazy hours. And then in the winter, we work a lot less. But needing to kind of communicate what I needed for my life, and having like work-life balance. That was something, getting my supervisors on board with that was very difficult. So it took a lot of talking about it, a lot of um, you know, different people in our company bringing that up. And then I think a lot of changes just in all culture, in society in general, to really make that a pressing issue. So I guess now I'm sort of the bridge between this Gen Z and this, a Gen Z attitude of less work, more life, and this, generation before me that's more work, less life. And so I have to be the bridge between those things and kind of try and find that balance. So, I guess my advice would be, keep at it, keep going at it, keep bringing up what you need. Don't count yourself out, and make sure that you're being heard. And I think eventually, you will get what you want. And if you don't, like Alex said, don't be afraid to make a change.
Yeah, I know. I think that's definitely a great point. There's a level of growth to be had, when you exit that comfort zone. Alan, last but not least, adversity and how you overcame it.
Yeah, I mean, being green out in Northern California was definitely pretty tricky. That was an area full of people that have been doing it their whole lives, and in many cases longer than I had been alive by that point. So gaining their trust was definitely a bit of an exercise that took probably a good year and a half plus, of just being there, being present, showing, making some efforts to be noticed, in the sense that I'm at these trainings, I'm doing these things, I'm showing up to your job sites, I'm helping you clean pools, doing all of these sorts of things to really be in the trenches, and so on. And then I remember the day it happened. Rick Fernandez from Premier Pools was in my warehouse, and he says, "You've been here long enough. I trust you now," and asked me a question, asked my opinion on something. And I was like, all right, I made it. But it's time. In some cases, it's conspicuous effort. Nobody's going to know you're doing the thing if you don't talk about doing the thing. So make sure you let people know that you're taking a training class. Make sure you post about it somewhere. I mean, it might seem silly and self-grandizing, and frankly, maybe it is, but, if other people don't know that you're, somebody that they can rely on, then they might not rely on you. So.
No, I think that's a good point, and LinkedIn is a great tool to be able to sort of just put that out there and connect with other professionals. kind of coming close to an end of our time, I'm going to introduce a mailbag question that I like to bring to the table every episode. And I think that this is a really good one based upon our conversation. Let's say that let's take just for the sake of hypotheticals, an example company. I'll say the Mast Sales Group, the company that I represent. If the Mast Sales Group is looking to hire someone under 40 that's ascending in the industry, that is aspiring, some really solid heights, what are some qualities that you would look for in the Mast Sales Group to be an attractive opportunity to someone under 40 that you would say, hey, look, you know what? There might be a future here. What's a couple qualities that you would look for?
For me, work-life balance. I'm a pretty active traveler. I enjoy seeing a lot of concerts and live music and things like that. So, does this job afford me an opportunity to perhaps travel for work for some things that I might enjoy doing personally as well? Does it afford me the time to be able to do those things, as well, is probably a key thing that I look at.
Okay, what about you, Alex?
So a fun question that I would definitely ask someone who's interested in getting in the industry is, hey, do you want to be part of the running club or you want to be part of the walking club? And I don't mean that, in a literal sense, but in this industry, you're running. There's no walking in this industry from the time you get up to the time you're asleep. So if you want to be part of the walking club, you can go over there. If you want to be a part of the running club, we're the place you want to be. So you have to have that, that type of mentality. I'll go hustle and bustle. You just got to, I don't know. I'm not going to curse on this, but get, crap done. You know what I'm saying? That's the type of mentality that you need to have in this industry. And if you do that, you'll have a lot of fun. You can have incredible amounts of success. And like I said, you can make money, a lot of it in this industry.
That's for sure.
That's the goal at the end of the day is to make that money. Melanie, what would be something you look for? Sorry, Alex, did I interrupt you? What was that you're going to add?
All I was going to say is a fun little saying that runs around the company is that we all want to stand on our wallets and clean our gutters at the end of every year. That's the goal.
I like that. I'm using that from now on. Sure. Melanie, the floor is yours.
I think I would look for a company that invests in their employees. So the All Seasons has sent me, to different trade shows and has helped me get those certifications that I talked about. And that's really helped me to grow. So I would want a company that values their employees by investing in them and providing them opportunities for growth.
I think that's definitely you kind of combine all the three, and it's a lot of, you want a company that's going to understand you at the end of the day, where you feel like, hey, look, I'm never thinking to myself, man, it just feels like there's such a disconnect between, who I work for and what I stand for and represent and maybe what I'm looking for. The last thing that I will ask you all about is this whole notion of connection versus competition. Of course, in any industry, there is competition. We compete every day with, whether it's at the manufacturer's level or distribution or dealer or you name it. One thing that I like about the Wave Network is that, it looks at like the competition ahead, but it realizes that the connections up here, being able to connect this industry together. How have you seen sort of the Wave Network be able to sort of achieve that over the past year or so?
I'll answer this one pretty quick. For me, I always say that we are the most diverse group, committee, whatever you want to call it, within the PHTA. Right. We are not the building committee. We are not the standards committee. We are not a single viewpoint group focused on one aspect of the industry. We have salespeople, we have service techs, we have service managers, we have people who work, through distribution. We have marketing executives at big three companies. We have people from every walk of the industry. So frankly, I find the young people are some of the least competitive in the sense, at least interpersonally, in the sense that we're all here doing different stuff for the same goal. So I find that the kind of competitive nature is much more collaborative in almost every aspect.
Okay. Alex, you have one piece of advice that you can give those listening to the show. Just one. I'm going to put you on the spot, and I'm going to say it can only be one thing from the stuff that we talked about. Or it could be something that you want to reiterate that maybe you brought up, what you've heard, that you would say, you know what? The main takeaway from what we've talked about today is blank.
That's a good one. I don't want to steal Melanie's thunder because I think she has a really good one too, which is always continue to grow. I think that has to be it. And whether it's reading books, right? Reading books. Seriously, I'm presenting a book club to the Northeast region next week at our sales call. Why? Because we can read. Here's one that we just got from our president, Matt McDermott. It's called Row the Boat. And we just read one called Unreasonable Hospitality, right? Like just, it doesn't matter. It doesn't have to pertain to our work. But it pertains to life, like these books and how to grow. So having that growth mindset, wanting to grow, wanting to learn, wanting to just be the best you can at what you're doing, it's only going to make you better. And on top of that, I was taught by, his name is Jared Porter. He was a former GM of the Mets, an assistant GM, been around the game. He said, dominate what you're doing now. Everyone in this industry wants to, in a sense, climb the ladder. They want to be the top, but they want to own their own company. They want to, just continue to grow and grow, but dominate what you're doing now. Dominate your job, do your job, and everything will fall into place. And that would probably be the next piece of advice. Just be happy where you're at, want to grow, but your job, dominate your job right now. Everything else is going to happen. And trust it. Don't rush. You're running. The process. You're running already. There's no need to rush.
Trust the process. Understand that. Melanie, as a young woman in this industry, you face some challenges that men particularly won't face, big picture, but also day to day. What will be your message to those young women out there that are looking to, create their own path in the industry, but there might be either a little bit of hesitancy or just those feelings of insecurity in the line? What would you say to those women, coming into a somewhat male-dominated industry? What would your message be to those people?
I would say get involved. And if you don't have my contact information, find me on Facebook and message me. I'm happy to help. Last year I went to the Women's Summit at Heritage, and something they talked about was holding each other's ladder as a woman. And so I'm going to steal that. If you're a successful woman out there in this industry and you meet someone that's new, hold their ladder. That's something that I've been kind of my mantra with a couple of the women that I know in this industry. And I enjoy it. I love to share. I love to help. So like I said, if you are new in the industry, get involved, follow the wave, and message me, I guess.
No, those are great answers. Also, for those young women listening to this, I had a Women in the Industry episode just a couple months ago, which is a great listen. Susan McPhee, Alicia Stevens, Jamie Novak, Megan Kendrick, a lot of really powerful and successful women in our industry give their thoughts. Definitely appreciate all of you all on the panel today. That's going to wrap up this week's edition of the Mast Podcast. Don't forget, a rising tide raises all ships. So let's take this industry to the next level. Thank you all. What's going to happen? I won't, because once I end this, it's going to kick us all off this screen. So my team will just edit this part out. Definitely appreciate you all for sure. If I can ever be of assistance in the future in the Midwest, please feel free to reach out. Definitely thank you all for coming onto the show and giving your expertise. And hopefully I'll see you all at some trade shows coming up next year. But you all have a good day, and we'll talk to you soon.
As Melanie said,
me.
could you put our contact? Well, I mean, it's up
Yes.
to Alan and Melanie, but put the contact
Yeah,
information.
absolutely. Put that in the show notes.
Yes,
Yeah.
we'll do.
Sure.
Awesome.
Thank you all. If you need me, you have my email. My phone number's in there as well. Please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thanks, Dalton.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you all.